Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us again. Going to be speaking this morning with Jenny Paul, CEO of Intent Entertainment and executive producer and creator and actor of Adulting with Jane. She's joining us here on the program to talk about a very special mental health episode entitled Don't Panic, in partnership with Talkspace, featuring best-selling author and behavioral specialist, Dr. Marcie Beigel. Thank you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio, Jenny Paul.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, give our listeners a bit of background about yourself. I, of course, said that you're CEO of Intent Entertainment, executive producer of Adulting with Jane. What's your background? And then let's talk a bit about adulting.
So, basically I came into New York City, graduated from college and to be an actor, and have been a professional actor in the city in television, film, and theater for the last 12 or 13 years. And somewhere along the line decided that I kind of wanted to bring my own spin and voice to some of the work that I was doing. So I started producing as well. And about 10 years in, I started this company, Intent Entertainment, which basically has the goal of both bringing new content to people that maybe wouldn't get it in any other kind of way, and bringing indie content, and also kind of incorporating the branding aspect of bringing good small businesses together with indie content makers in order to be able to have them both succeed better. So thereby we ended up with a show called Adulting with Jane, which basically is a brand partnership show that's an indie series that's really a do-gooder series meant to bring people good information in a way that they can enjoy it. So it's basically a how-to comedy, as it were. So it's a how-to video, but it's also a sitcom.
Now, is it focusing solely on small businesses or business in general, or anything under the broad topic of adulting?
Well, the show itself focuses purely on adulting. We partner with small businesses so that the small businesses can get the benefit of our audiences, and we can get the benefit of supporting them. But yeah, so it's purely for people to learn adulting skills. Absolutely.
The term adulting, it's relatively new. What is adulting from your perspective, and why is it such an important topic among today's younger folks?
Well, I think it's something that's been around since forever. We just haven't really called it that. I think it's the concept of when you become, a quote-unquote adult, maybe in the United States it's 18, or just as you're sort of learning how to take care of yourself and go from being taken care of to, being self-sufficient. All of the different things that you end up needing to learn in the process. So, a lot of people need to learn how to, sew buttons. Maybe they didn't learn at home, or cook, or change a tire, or any number of other sort of hard and soft skills that you learn when you're, quote unquote, graduating into taking care of yourself. So that's sort of what adulting is the idea behind learning some of those skills that maybe weren't school skills, but you kind of need in order to succeed as an adult.
Now, talking about those skills to take care of yourself, adulting yourself, as it were, taking care of your mental and physical health has to be of utmost importance, to being an adult, because you want to continue to be a healthy adult, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, we all want to sort of live our best life. So that's sort of a big, huge part of it.
How does health, taking care of yourself health-wise, play into Adulting with Jane as a do-it-yourself comedy series?
Well, I think we try to incorporate bits of everything. So we've had an episode about changing a tire. We had one about tidying and home organization. And I think just along with all of those other concepts, to me, especially now during a pandemic, the mental health aspect of it is pretty important. And I think it's something that largely goes unaddressed and more addressed as time goes on, and as sort of the verbiage and the language becomes more acceptable around mental health. But I think the idea here, for us was to give our viewers a nugget of information that would actually be useful to them, and sort of demystify and also sort of make less shameful the idea of taking care of your own mental health, and that's not only okay, but it's pretty normal.
Now, let's talk about this episode called Don't Panic. How did that come to be?
I think, basically it was in our original season before the COVID pandemic even hit. And it was probably our mid-season sort of keystone episode it was going to be our first season of about 7 episodes. And then COVID hit. And so we stopped production. We only made the first 3 episodes when we intended to make 7. And then we decided somewhere in maybe late March, mid-April, that we would try to go ahead and shoot the episode anyway, but do it entirely remotely. So we actually shot that episode because of the pandemic in April, with the concept of nobody was going to be in anybody else's house. So we actually did the whole thing through Zoom and through me. Actually, I'm the person in the episode setting up all of the cameras and lights and things that other people kind of instructed me on. And then we shot the episode about managing panic attacks, because we're finding that people, even that didn't have a panic disorder or that didn't have panic attacks on the regular, or maybe even never had one before, started having them because of the COVID pandemic. So we basically decided to give our viewers and everybody who was watching a chance to kind of experience what that was through Jane's eyes, and Jane's friend having a panic attack, and how Jane could best help her friend in that moment.
You talked about, I guess, differentiating between a panic attack due to the current situation or similar situations in a person's life, stressful situations, or someone who has panic attacks as an actual disorder. What did you discover in talking to people other than, your friend and I guess the crew and cast of that particular episode when it came to talking about panic attacks? How was it something that was in people's minds, or are people actually developing a disorder?
I mean, as a non-mental health professional, I can't really speak to that. But what I can say is that I think a lot of people, are naturally experiencing, and this we have found for sure, panic attacks because they're not used to this level of worry and fret about their friends and their family and whatnot. So we're actually finding that people that have never experienced this before in their lives are having them for the first time and not necessarily knowing what's happening. I think generally speaking, people that have had them in the past have gotten help, have figured out different ways that they can cope. And where you have a brand new set of people having a brand new set of things happen to their body because they don't know how to manage all of this extra anxiety. I think that's where it becomes really important, because people aren't educated in this because they didn't have to be. And now it's what's happening to me. Why is my body betraying me? And the answer is, well, this is actually normal for some people. And right now it's normal for a lot of people. So here are some tips that can help you manage that and figure out a way to get through all of this together, and then also create some empathy for people who have these things happen to them more often as well.
What about you personally, as far as these tips in this particular episode? Were any of the tips offered things that you knew from personal experience, or did you rely mostly on information gleaned from others? Were you someone who never had a panic attack, or did you experience them here and there?
I think I've had probably 2 to 3 of them in my lifetime. So I'm a person that I have had that happen to me before, and not, basically chest tightness and not knowing the sort of major symptoms and not knowing what's going on, and had somebody there, to help me empathetically ride through it and figure out how to cope. And since the couple of times that I have had them and gotten those tips, it's really helped me a lot. If I know what's happening, then I can, forgive myself immediately, which is a major part of it. And, because it's initially you kind of feel embarrassed because you're having an episode and you don't exactly know what's happening or why. And there's an embarrassment factor. So immediately reminding myself that I'm okay and that nobody's judging me, and the things that they kind of talk about in terms of the panic attacks have actually helped me not have panic attacks. So, I think I've probably had 2 to 3 in my whole life in, major moments of stress. And, I think giving this information to people, whether they're going to have them again or not after the pandemic, or whether they're having them now, or whether they just have a friend that they want to be there for in the right ways, I think was a major factor for me. And, and the people on the team, we're all artists in New York. So everybody has a friend or is a person that has experienced some sort of, some sort of mental health challenge or, just education.
Well, Jenny, how can we view a episode or many episodes of Adulting with Jane? Where can our listeners get some more information online to, get some adulting?
Sure. So our main platform is adultingwithjane.com. So we love sending people. We're also on Amazon and we're also on YouTube. We like sending people to adultingwithjane.com because the episodes are interactive. You can actually play within them to a degree. So adultingwithjane.com is the place to go and see the first 4 episodes, and the Don't Panic episode is the most recent one that we've made. So that's the 4th.
Well, I thank you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio this morning. Quite interesting. Thanks.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Jenny Paul, CEO of Intent Entertainment. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.